just want to introduce the CEO of LULAC, Sindy Benavides, who's here. She'll kick us off. And Juan, if you could unmute Dolores, that would be great as well. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Great. Buenas tardes, and thank you so much to everyone for joining. As many of you know, my name is Sindy Benavides, and I serve as the CEO of LULAC. And for those of you who do not know LULAC, LULAC was created in 1929 to protect and defend the Latino community at a time when simply coming together could be considered conspiracy and our community could be hanged and lynched. And today, 91 years later, we find ourselves amidst COVID-19 still protecting and defending our community, especially our workers on the front line. I want to thank so much Dolores Huerta, our national president, Domingo Garcia, Kim, and Beatriz for joining us in making sure that we're giving you those direct impact stories and shedding light on what's happening on the ground. I will tell you that LULAC National sent an email to Ms. Swed at OSHA on March 31st, and I know that Joe Henry, who's a senior advisor to LULAC National President, also did the same in Iowa and Des Moines on April 1st. We yet have to hear back from Ms. Swed at National in terms of a response, in terms of what OSHA is doing, in terms of the recommendations that are outlined in their guidelines. We certainly want to make sure that they are mandatory. I want to now turn it over to David, who is our Director of Communications and someone who has been a long time LULAC activist, leader, and organizer on the ground, who will be moderating the session. David, you can take it from here, and thank you again, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sindy. I want to welcome all of the media that is with us today. We appreciate your time. We hope that you're safe and well. Sinceramente, les damos la bienvenida a cada periodista que nos acompañe el día de hoy. Mi nombre es David Cruz. My name is David Cruz. I'm just the bus driver here today, guys, so I will try to facilitate the conversation and give you the opportunity to ask your questions after we get some opening remarks. It's pretty simple. Juan Proaño is in Miami. He's going to be controlling the Q&A. I'm in LA, and so here we are. Technology brings us together. If I may, I would like to begin with an opening statement by Domingo Garcia. He is the national president of the League of United Latin American Citizens, LULAC. Señor Presidente, adelante. We need to unmute. We apologize.
There you go.
There you
go. Thank you. All right, my name is Domingo Garcia. I'm the national president of LULAC. I'm also the son of farm workers. And today, for the first time in LULAC history, we're issuing a national public health warning to the American public. The fact of the matter is, we have been receiving reports from the fields of Arizona and California that farm workers are being put in positions of extreme danger. In Arizona, reports come in that 20 or 30 farm workers are sleeping in old school buses as they work the fields. They are not being given adequate safety equipment in terms of protective masks, gloves, and they are not keeping the social distances that the CDC has issued. And we are seeing that that is a danger, not only to the produce that is getting to our tables, to farm workers getting sick and being not able to get the necessary equipment they do to continue doing their work, as well as the minimum benefits of sick leave, unemployment leave, and not being, and now President Trump asking that that the visas of visiting farm workers, that their wages be cut. Again, that is creating an extreme danger to the American food supply. In addition, we have gotten complaints starting in Iowa regarding meatpacking plants, where meatpackers, majority Latino and immigrants and refugees, that were not being also given an adequate care. Over 3 weeks ago, we contacted OSHA and we filed a formal complaint with OSHA that OSHA guidelines were not being followed at the meat, poultry, and chicken plants across America. OSHA has yet to respond. Nobody in Washington has responded. As a result, in Greeley, Colorado, at the JBS plant, in the last week, 4 workers died, and dozens are sick. The numbers are unknown because they're not testing everybody. That plant has now closed for 2 weeks. In the last week, 12 plants that produce chicken, poultry, and pork for American families have closed down because of illnesses to their workforce. These are essential frontline workers. They're just as important as doctors and nurses, but they are not being treated that way. And until Washington gets the message and the governors of every state get the message, then if you thought fighting for toilet paper and paper towels was a big deal, wait till it's the last pork chop, the last steak. The coronavirus doesn't ask for papers. It doesn't ask for your immigration status. And we need to make sure that that the Washington authorities start acting now. So we're asking for a task force to be established with OSHA, the Department of Labor, and the White House to get the equipment necessary to our frontline workers in the fields and in the meatpacking plants. And that all of them be tested to make sure that they are safe and those that are not are quarantined. Third, we need President Trump. We need you to issue temporary protective status for every immigrant who is working in the fields and who is working at these meatpacking plants. They're essential frontline workers, and they should be given temporary protective status immediately with a pathway to legal citizenship at some point. America needs them, and that is an important, crucial part of America's food supply. We will continue monitoring the situation. It is getting more dire. These are deaths that were, Saul Sanchez was 78 years old, a worker at the JBS plant in Crowley. He shouldn't have been there. And if OSHA had stepped in, if the Department of Health had stepped in, if the governor of Colorado or the governor of Iowa or the governor of Pennsylvania or the president of the United States had stepped in, these deaths would have been prevented. And we ask the American public that this national health warning has consequences. If the food chain is stopped, it is possible within 2 or 3 weeks, we will have major shortages at every grocery store in America. So it's time to wake up, and it's time for action by the White House and by every governor and health department in the country. Thank you.
Thank you for that opening statement, Mr. President. I want to turn now to someone who needs no introduction, but we are so honored to have with us today the great worker right leader in America. She is an icon in the Latino movement and indeed for workers throughout this country, Dolores Huerta. Señora Huerta, bienvenida, hermana, adelante. Please make your opening remarks.
Thank you very much. We have a similar situation in California where farm workers are being affected by the COVID-19 virus. And the situation is also here that in the packing houses where people are packing the food into boxes, in the fields, where workers are standing next to each other, not only are they not being provided with masks and not being provided with gloves, but they're also not being provided with the information that they need right now at this critical time. And so our organization, the Dolores Huerta Foundation, we're trying to fill some of these needs in the area. And yes, I just want to again affirm the fact that somehow the farm workers are invisible. You hardly ever get them mentioned when they talk about the critical and the frontline workers. Yeah, the farm workers are there. They're out there in the fields working every single day to feed the nation. And we know without food, none of us can sustain ourselves at all. But the other thing too is that with all of the schools being closed, farm worker families, often you have the parent, the husband and the wife that both work in the fields, but then one of them has to stay home with the children. And so they are also suffering a loss of income. But in most of the United States of America, they are not covered by unemployment insurance. We only have 2 states, Hawaii and California, that have full unemployment insurance for workers. California is the only state, I believe, that has disability insurance for the farm workers also when they become ill with the virus, and that they will be able to have some kind of a disability check coming into their home. We know that right now there's a 4th package that's being considered to go into the Congress, and we want part of that 4th package to include some type of sustenance, some type of income for farm workers that are also now being affected by this crisis. And this whole move of trying to decrease the wages of the foreign workers, the H-2A workers that are coming into agriculture, this is something that they've been trying to do. The growers have been trying to do this for several years now. And now they're trying to take advantage of the crisis to make this happen. If they decrease the wages of the foreign workers, that will have an impact on the wages of the domestic workers, because the law right now, as it stands, any foreign workers that are brought in have to be paid the same wages as the domestic workers. But the employers actually get a break anyway, because they don't have to pay Social Security to the foreign workers that are coming in. And in the places where they do have to pay, like in California, they have to pay unemployment insurance. The H-2A workers are exempt from this. And not only that, but the agricultural industry got a $19 billion, this is money that they got out of the stimulus package. Well, they need to share some of that money with their workers, because the agricultural industry, they have to depend on their workers to be able to create the wealth that they have right now. So it's time for some accountability. And we want to thank everybody on the press that is on this call to help us get this message out. Please protect the farm workers, because they are protecting you. Thank you.
Thank you. Dolores Huerta, by the way, also a co-founder of the United Farm Workers and a longtime advocate for the workers of America. Thank you so very much. I'm going to, at this point, I also want to include Joe Hendry. He's a special advisor to the president. But if I may, Brother Hendry, I want to first turn my attention to Beatriz Rangel. Well, Beatriz, you're there. I know Kim is also going to join us shortly from the farm workers. You are here for a very special reason. May we ask you to share a few words? Su papá falleció, your dad has passed. He worked at this plant more than 30 years. Today, where is your thought on the subject that you've been hearing about?
Well, I guess I have all kinds of mixed thoughts on it. It's been very hard. We're going to bury my dad tomorrow. He worked for JBS 30 years, and I've yet to hear from JBS. And so it's been very, very hard. My dad was a selfless man. He gave a lot. He was encouraging, he was loving, he was a hardworking man. He had the same story as a lot of migrants do, coming here, wanting a better life for his family. He taught us the importance of education, of working hard, of having a great work ethic. And I feel like he was there for 30 years. And when I called to let them know that he was sick and to let the rest of the employees know that he was positive for COVID-19, I got no response. And it really told me that they did not care, and I worried about what other people were at risk. It's too late for my dad, but it's not too late for those other employees. I think earlier somebody mentioned that they are essential workers. If they're essential workers and they have to be there, why are they not taking care of them by making sure they have the right uniforms, everything? My dad was 78 years old. He was in the older generation risk category, and they didn't do anything to protect him. And so it breaks my heart. I keep also hearing stories of all the other people, other deaths that have happened, other people that are in the hospital. My sister works at one of those hospitals, and she's just, she filed a complaint with the Weld County Health Department. And I'm like, why are all these companies the exception? Why isn't the CDC coming down on them? Obviously, as you can see, my dad, he loved education. He got his GED at 60 years old. And he was a wonderful example. He was the light and heart of our family. 6 kids, 13 grandkids, and now he's gone. And I know they do not care.
Ms. Rangel, I cannot tell you, all of us at LULAC, all of us, when we read the story of your papá, nos hizo llorar, para decirte la verdad, because you know what? Your father is our father. Your father is our grandfather. Your father is our brother. And so please know we'll get an opportunity to share more, and we're going to have a moment of silence at the end of this press conference and the conversation. Kim, now that we have heard from Beatriz Rangel, whose father was one of the 4 fatalities there in Colorado, you represent the commercial food workers in that state. Give us your sense of where things are. You're the spokesperson for labor here. Where is your thinking today as far as the administration and also state authorities and so forth? Please speak to us. Is Kim on? Can she hear me? Okay.
Am I?
Okay.
Okay, there I go. Can you hear me?
Yes, please identify yourself and full title. I
Sure.
apologize that I don't have the agenda with me because I had a computer malfunction, but here we are. Kim, please identify yourself for all the reporters who are online.
Absolutely. My name is Kim Cordova. I am the president of United Food and Commercial Workers Local 7. I represent 23,000 hardworking frontline workers in Colorado and Wyoming, food processing, packing, grocery, and healthcare workers in the state. We have 3,000 workers that work for JBS that are members of the UFCW. I'm also an international vice president. I will tell you that since the onset of COVID into the United States, JBS is one of the largest employers in the state of Colorado and also the largest protein producer in the world, was not prepared for this pandemic in Colorado. In fact, there was little to no PPE or any type of measures taken to help workers with self-distancing in that plant, which is almost impossible because workers in that industry work almost elbow to elbow. We had been communicating with the worker, filing grievances, trying to get the company to post notices about COVID-19. They had very little, any type of communication in that facility that was translated into the different languages. There are 30 languages spoken at that plant. And so we had to take our fight with JBS to the governor and ask for emergency and critical type of status for the employees so that they got some paid leave. So some background for packing house workers around the country and even those that are unionized. Most packing house workers do not have paid sick leave or paid family leave. They also, they don't have some of the protections that workers need when they have been deemed critical and essential. So the governor of Colorado and also the president of the United States had said because of the food supply chain, it was critical that these workers continue to work. They were not going to close the JBS plant. And so what happened is there was an outbreak at the plant. I mean, we've lost 3 union workers, union members in that plant, and 3 too many. This could have been avoided if there were proper notices, if there was PPE in the plant. When this came over to the United States, these industries that knew that they were going to stay open and that they were critical and essential, they should have had masks for these workers. They should have had, other type of devices like staggering or plexiglass, in between the workers while they worked, because these workers are shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow. And also we had a fight with the employer to even offer any type of sick pay compensation. The other thing that we want for these workers is hazard pay. They're on the front line of this war with the virus, but they're not getting any additional compensation. JBS offered a $600 bonus that workers would only get if they worked through the whole pandemic. They're not going to get that until the middle of May. And so it really, all of these tragedies at the plants, you're seeing not only here in Colorado, but throughout the country, these workers suffer the most. If the plant shuts down, they lose their income.
Kim,
they also are losing their life.
I want to give you the full opportunity to respond to questions. I know reporters will have many questions. También tendremos información para ustedes en español. En este momento, la última persona también que quiero que haga un comentario, Joe Hendry, briefly, you're a special advisor to President Garcia at LULAC on the issue of this situation with the meat packers, the processing plants, los empaques. What is your assessment? You're in Iowa. What are you seeing up there?
Well, here in Iowa, we have about a dozen meat packing plants here, and of course, there's 4,000 meat processing plants throughout the country. But when we look at this, you know, clearly JBS, Tyson, National Beef, Monogram, Smithfield. Smithfield seems to be the one right now that's having a difficult time catching up. 80 workers came down with the symptoms, possibly the virus, in northwestern Iowa over by the Sioux Falls, South Dakota border. Of course, in Denison, we have another Smithfield plant. On March 26th, a number of workers refused to go into the plant because they feared that the danger existed there. Of course, they were forced to work. They were threatened, which was very unfortunate. And of course, we've had this Tyson plant over in eastern Iowa that where difficulties occurred, and there is a shutdown right now. But clearly, things need to be done, just as Kim had indicated. Plexiglass between the workers. Right now, plastic sheets are the only things that are being dropped in between the workers within inches of each other. The workers are saying at the plants that we're hearing, we need safe distance between each other in the cutting rooms. We can't survive with these plastic sheets. We need the number of workers to be reduced, especially, for example, when the women go into the bathrooms and there's only 6 stalls, but there might be 15 people going to that bathroom with only a 5-minute break. Can you imagine what's happening? People are being forced to stay on the line. Things need to change. We can go on, but Kim did a very good job on explaining.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. And I know we're going to give you an opportunity to answer. I want to thank the members of the media who have patiently, of course, listened to the opening statements. Juan, you will direct us in terms of who is interested in asking a question. Alguna persona que quiera hacer alguna pregunta, estamos para servirles. Yes, Cameron Duckworth. I think he's raising his hand. Can you give him an open mic there, please, Juan? Cameron, you're on. You are where, please? Can you identify yourself?
Yes, my name is Cameron Duckworth. I'm with Denver 7. We just have a couple questions about, we keep talking about JBS, about what they didn't do. What are some actions y'all are planning to take against them? Or do y'all have plans in the future to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Kim?
Well, we've already, some of the actions we've taken is we've filed a charge with OSHA. We've also filed grievances against the company. We've gone to the governor, obviously, and the plant has been closed. So we are working with the Department of Health. We've laid out some demands for, that we want to see before that plant opens up, like some more additional PPE, staggered breaks and lunches. We also want the plexiglass. We want temperatures that are taken in the plant, not only for the workers, but for anybody that enters or has any business within the plant. We also are, a lot of this stuff will be going through the grievance procedure, and we're going to be taking any legal action to remedy the situation.
Thank you, Kim. President Garcia, I know you've been in touch with people at JBS in Greeley, Colorado, and also with the governor of Colorado. Could you comment to the question by our reporter, Cameron Duckworth in Denver?
I did have a meeting this morning with the president, CEO of JBS, expressing the concerns of the workers and the families working at that plant, as well as the other JBS plants throughout the country. They pledged to try to make the environment more safe. The plant has been closed for 2 weeks. We expect that when it opens again, every worker will have a mask, will have the plexiglass and other sanitation efforts to deep clean the plant. And we're asking that every worker and the families of the workers be tested so that those that test positive are quarantined. And Greeley's a relatively small town, only 100,000 people, and that can get out of hand, but it's manageable when you have that kind of distribution. A lot of these plants, whether the ones in Marshalltown, Iowa, or in Sioux Falls, can be handled if we put the resources there. And that's one of the things we've been asking both to the federal government the state government, as well as the local employers take action before these plants open up again.
Thank you. Dolores, is that enough? Are these actions that have been mentioned by Kim and President Garcia, what else would you like to see? You've been in the labor movement a long time, as President Garcia has. What would you like to see?
Well, I think one of the things that we have to be careful is to make sure that these families are compensated right now for the losses. And we know that in the agricultural area, you have a lot of undocumented families also. And so we have to figure out ways, and I think a lot of this has to be done at the state level, is how we are able to make those resources available to undocumented farm workers also. Farm workers that work in the fields, farm workers that work in the packing sheds. This is important. We have had some deaths of farm workers also here in California. The other thing too is the transportation of farm workers. Often, you know, they go to work in vans or
Yes.
they're in cars. And again here, there isn't any really safe way for them to be able to get to work in the first place. So the masks are extremely important. The testing is extremely important, and making the resources available. Oh, the other thing too, because so many of the schools are closed, many of the farm worker families, they don't have internet. Many of them do not have the notebooks or the computers that they need so that their children can also keep up with their classes. So this is another big area where our families are being affected right now. And so we have to consider what kind of remedial steps and resources are going to be given to those families so that the children are not also left behind in terms of their studies.
So to recap, Cameron, I think what you have heard from the speakers, as you can, deduce for yourself, they want a more comprehensive solution than what they're being offered. It's not simply equipment, it's also about treatment for the families. The next question, please, Juan.
Yes, Luke Runyon has a question.
Luke, go ahead. Please
Thanks.
identify your source, or rather, what publication or media source are you with?
Sure. My name is Luke Runyon. I work for KUNC. It's an NPR station in Northern Colorado. We had heard from JBS this morning that they were not going to be conducting mass testing of employees before the plant was set to reopen next week. Is that something that the union or that LULAC would want to see before JBS is set to reopen next week? And one other question too. There's a Cargill meatpacking plant in Fort Morgan, just down the road from Greeley. Have you all heard of your members there who are testing positive, or what's the situation like there?
Well, before we answer the question on Cargill, I'd like to give Beatriz Rangel. You are the survivor of a man who's lost his life. How do you feel when you hear that the plant may not be providing masks and they want them to go back? Your reaction to that?
I think that's horrible, and I want to know why there's no accountability there. This are people's lives, and it's not only them; it's their family, it's everybody else. I would like to know why they're the exception. I can't imagine that. I just think it's horrible. I hear all the stories of all, we have had so many people reach out to us. My dad, working at JBS for 30 years, knew a lot of people, and they are scared to go back.
Why did he keep going back if he knew there was a danger?
I think my dad is, I want to say this in Spanish, es la cultura mexicana, que es,
the Mexican culture.
Que es trabajo. El trabajo viene primero. El trabajo es lo que le dio la oportunidad. He's so grateful to have a job no matter where it was. He was never going to fail.
Thank you.
And he trusted
work
that
comes first.
Yep, work comes first. Yep.
Thank you.
David, we have a Sangamboa that wants to ask a question as well now.
I'd also like Kim to respond to the question that was asked by Luke. Kim, briefly, tell us about the situation. If JBS says no masks for the workers, and have you inquired into Cargill? Your reaction to both of those, briefly.
So first of all, on the testing, we're demanding testing. And I actually, right before this call, I was on the phone with Joe Ryan from CDPHE and the governor's office. The company committed to spend $1 million on testing. The vice president of the U.S. said that they would send enough test kits over. we don't want this to be a PR stunt from to try to force workers to come back to work, because workers have the right to refuse to work in an unsafe working condition, and we're going to make sure that we advise the workers of their rights.
What about Cargill? What about Cargill?
So we don't, the Teamsters represent Cargill, but we are aware that that plant is also, that the virus has spread through that plant, and we know of one death at the plant.
Okay, next question, Juan.
Yes, Suzanne Gamboa from NBC.
Suzanne,
Hi.
NBC, go ahead.
Hi, just a quick question for Beatriz. You said you're burying your father tomorrow. I wanted to know how that's going to, how that's going to take place because of the social distancing that has to occur. I'd also like to ask Domingo, what's the overall impact? How does this fit into the overall impact of the coronavirus on Latino families? And finally, to Kim, what's the, I guess, danger? It seems like you're not getting word of death, that the word about whether a death has occurred is not coming quickly. So is there a danger in what seems to be a span of days in not getting the word that a death has occurred?
Thank you, Suzanne. Let me go ahead and take it in 3 parts. First of all, Beatriz, briefly, tomorrow, el día de para la familia, how will you handle the funeral?
Unfortunately, due to the COVID virus, they allow 10 people for the viewing. There's 6 kids of us, 13 grandkids, and my mom. So they've done an exception for 12 people. So that's the kids, our spouses, and my mom. And then after that, directly after the viewing, they're going to go ahead and just do the burial. The burial, they said, I'm so thankful to Sunset Gardens here in Greeley. They said that it was fine if we had more people there because it's outside, as long as we practice the social distancing. So we have only very, very close family, and we've asked them if they can drive by, you know, have a moment of silence and then keep going. That would be great. But we had so many people. I think at least 872 people wanted to attend that funeral, and we had to say no.
Thank you, Beatriz. President Garcia, your reaction to where this fits in to the overall COVID-19 situation across the country as it relates to Latinos.
Ms. Gamboa, today, LULAC has released a COVID-19 impact on the Latino community study, and that has been posted on our LULAC.org, and we can send that to everybody here in the media today. The fact of the matter is that COVID-19 has had a disproportionate impact on the Latino community for a variety of reasons. For example, people don't know, more Latinos have passed away in New York City than African Americans. And what we're seeing now in Colorado, in Florida, and in Texas, across the country, is again, Latinos are dying at a higher percentages than other groups. And that is because many Latinos have diabetes. La familia, there's sometimes 4 to 8 people in a household or in an apartment complex or at a tenement location in the East Coast. And that is disproportionately impacting our communities. Economically, the mom and pop shops, la quinceañeras that do stores, that give the quinceañera gowns to the girls or the weddings, those are running out of business, and they're not getting the money from the Small Business Administration Payroll Protection Act or any of those other acts. That's not getting there. There needs to be an allocation set aside to make sure that these small minority businesses, which employ lots of Latinos and lots of people, are able to be taken care of. So what the virus has shown is that there is almost an apartheid system of healthcare in America, and that the poor, the working class, don't have access to healthcare. They're not going to get tested. They only go to the hospital when it's too late, and then they might not be able to be saved. Many of them don't have healthcare. Texas, for example, has the largest number of uninsured people in the United States. Most of them are Latino, and that is across the country. And we need to make sure that we close those inequities. Otherwise, we're going to have a disproportionate impact on the Latino community in the United States.
Thank you, President Garcia. Let me go to Kim. Kim Cordova, you represent the commercial food workers. The question was from NBC, are you getting the word quickly enough when employees are dying?
No, there has been really a lack of transparency with JBS. since the media became involved and we started reporting, up to 1,000 workers a day calling in or calling off sick or not reporting to work, this is about within the last 3 weeks, the company has cut off all contact with us. They're barely responding to any of our emails. So we are not, becoming aware of these deaths. If it was not for the media being involved, because family members have reached out to us, and that's how we're finding out.
Thank you.
And
Next question,
yeah,
Juan.
we can't get the resources they need.
Thank you very much. Juan?
No other questions at the moment.
Okay. Dolores, if I could come back to you and ask you, when you hear about the death of a 78-year-old man, I live just a few blocks away from the strawberry fields of Oxnard, California. You've been here before. We love when you visit. The farm workers have gotten no break because of COVID-19. Is the state of California listening? I mean, Gavin Newsom is getting quite a bit of attention. He's being praised for having thought ahead. What about the farm workers? Are they the continued invisible ones? Are they getting the kind of help that you feel they need?
Well, we obviously need more help. The one thing I do want to say about Governor Gavin Newsom is that he and our leaders in the state legislature are preparing to give benefits to undocumented people. And this is something that we know we can't get any help from the federal government. And as I said before, a lot of the farm workers and their families are undocumented here in California. We have the largest number of undocumented people here, and the Governor Newsom and the leaders of the state legislature are working on this issue right now, and he has already had a press conference and announced that they were going to be giving some relief to undocumented workers. In terms of the workers themselves, it's like everything else. A lot of it depends on the employers. And unfortunately, a lot of the employers, we have agribusiness in California, so that the head of an agricultural company, their offices are in Los Angeles or San Francisco. They're not out there in the field, so they're disconnected. So a lot of the responsibility to make sure that workers are protected has to go to the employers themselves. The other thing, we know that there has been a shortage of masks everywhere. Unfortunately, our federal government failed us on this. President Trump failed us on this. And so everybody here is trying to make masks and trying to distribute them to as many people as they can. We have seen that even our doctors and our nurses, they don't have the necessary protective equipment. Our home care workers, we had a press conference about this just a few days ago, that the home care workers are not being provided the kind of masks they need. So this is a big failing on the part of the federal government, and we really got to make sure that we hold the president accountable for this failing. I think that the governors of most of the states are doing as much as they can, and they're even being challenged on that. So, we need to really step it up a lot. And I think in the future, I hope LULAC will join what we did here in California to make sure that every single farm worker in every single state is covered, not only that they have a part of healthcare, like we have in California, but they also have unemployment insurance, they have disability insurance, and they have workers' compensation.
Thank you.
Workers' compensation, which now in most states they do not have.
President Garcia, would you like to add to what has been asked before we take the next question?
No, I think it's just important that we treat, the farm workers. I'm totally in agreement with Dolores Huerta. The fact of the matter is they are not treated as essential workers. They're not given the protections, both in terms of sick pay, workers' comp, all the other benefits that most workers take for granted. Still, farm workers are excluded. And if they're undocumented, then they get no services at all. And I'm glad that Governor Newsom in California and some other cities like the mayor of Minneapolis are including undocumented workers as part of any assistance. But we have to do that on the federal level, and it's a national crisis. It requires a national response.
Thank you, President Garcia. The next question, Juan?
We have two more questions, one from Diane Gallagher at CNN.
Diane Gallagher at CNN. For whom is your question, please?
My question is for Domingo and potentially also Joe. We're talking a lot about Colorado, obviously. In Greeley, we've spoken about Smithfield and South Dakota, and Joe's talked about Iowa. But are there other places that we should be focusing on that you guys have heard from workers in the meat packing or out in the fields that are not getting the same kind of attention because perhaps their numbers aren't quite as large right now, but obviously we know looking ahead, those numbers tend to grow quickly.
Joe, would you like to start the answer to that question, please?
Sure. I mean, we're getting phone calls from concerned members of our community throughout the Midwest right now. We even had some reaching out from folks in Virginia. We're urging them to go to our website. We're trying to connect with everybody, build that coalition. I'm very thankful that our national president, Domingo Garcia, and CEO Sindy Benavides have really been working very hard on this. But clearly we need to expand our bandwidth because we have a lot of folks hurting out there. 3 out of every 4 agricultural workers are from our community, the immigrant community.
Thank you, Joe. President Garcia, would you like to respond to CNN?
Yes, we're receiving complaints from Mississippi, Tyson plants in Mississippi and in Arkansas, that workers are getting sick and they're not getting the adequate protections. We have contacted all the governmental affairs person at Tyson to make sure that that is resolved, and they're taking precautions and getting the equipment necessary for those workers. But this is happening across the whole plants across the Midwest. It might have started on the East Coast, but it's coming in, and now you have workers getting sick in South Dakota and in Wyoming, and now Iowa, and what we're seeing in Colorado. And so we need to make sure that we have a national response. And unless President, we're trying to get a meeting with Vice President, these workers included in the discussion, just like doctors and nurses in the healthcare system. If you don't, we are going to have empty grocery shelves in America in a matter of weeks, and it's going to create a severe food shortage like we haven't seen since the Great Depression. It requires immediate response.
Thank you, President Garcia. Juan, I don't know if we can mute, but if someone has an open mic and you're moving, kindly mute your background, please, and then we can bring you back on. You had a second
one
question.
More question from Natasha.
Yeah.
Natasha, what media source are you with, please?
Natalia Navarro with CPR News in Denver.
Natalia, bienvenida, welcome. Please, your
Thank you. Yeah, I just have a quick question for Kim. We've been chatting back and forth, but I want to confirm the name of this third JBS worker who has died, and then any information that you can provide, that's whether he was on a ventilator, how old he was, etc.
Okay, Kim, that question was for you. Kim, Cordova in Colorado, do we have an age on the third fatality? We know that, yes, please go ahead.
Yes, I do. So his name, let me spell it for you. It's the letter T like Tom, I, B like baby, U-R, S-I-O, Rivera Lopez. And he was going to be 70 years old on August 11th. He was 69 years old.
Tiburcio Rivera Lopez, 69. Okay, go ahead, Kim.
Yes, and all 3 of the fatalities, COVID fatalities from the JBS plant were all over 60 years old. So this is, we have a high population of workers that are over 60. There's over 363 workers between 60 and 70, and about another 58 that were between 70 and older working at that facility.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. Is there another question, Juan?
Yes, from Natasha.
Natalia. Oh, Natasha, please.
Yes.
Natasha. And with what media source are you, or organization?
Yes, I am with Fox 26, which is located in Houston, Texas.
Welcome. Thank you, Natasha, from
Yes,
Houston.
thank you so much. Well, my question is that there are several JBS plants in Texas. I just wanted to know, are there any concerns with those plants yet? Are we hearing of any problems that the workers are facing? What should we be looking out for here in Texas?
And for whom is your question, please?
I guess whoever could answer it, if it's from the, from the union, or, if anybody is aware of what's happening with JBS in Texas.
President Garcia, you've had the highest level talks with JBS. Are they willing to work with you across the country? Are you going to be able to bring parties together? And in Texas, where labor is not always organized, are there challenges because your law firm and your civil rights practice and your service as former mayor pro tem of Dallas and a state lawmaker has all been focused in Texas? Can you comment on that?
Well, we are talking to JBS. The problems we've seen have been in the Midwest, not in Texas. But in our conversations today, without going into all the details, I have been informed that the company ordered 5 million masks. Unfortunately, they're coming from China, and therefore there's been a 3-week delay in getting those masks to get it to all the workers at the plants. And again, we've asked that they provide those masks, provide the protections at every plant. If not, we're going to see what's happening right now in Colorado and in Iowa and other states will eventually happen here in Texas. Texas has the most cattle of any state. It's the biggest meat producer in the country. And we need to make sure that those JBS workers are adequately protected. And that's why we're in dialogues with their CEO and their corporate officers to make sure that those outbreaks, which have happened in other plants, don't get to Texas and every worker is tested.
Gracias. ¿Alguna pregunta en español que tengan para cualquier persona que está en este panel? Okay. Yes, Marcela, did you have, or does anyone have any final question? Dolores Huerta, you wanted to make a comment, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about Texas. Again, it was mentioned earlier, but I think we have to emphasize it. The fact that there are so many people in Texas that are not covered with any kind of a healthcare plan. And this is a big threat. And I hope that, that we need to emphasize that so that the people in Texas need to know that they have to fight. They have to fight for a healthcare plan, and that they have to make sure that they put this on their voting agenda when it comes to November, that this has got to be something that they bring up to their legislators and to the governor. They have to really fight for a healthcare plan. And the other thing I just want to mention, we have talked about the ages of the people that have passed away there at the plant there in Colorado. But I have to tell you that here in our county, in Kern County, Bakersfield, we're right in the Central Valley where a lot of the food is grown. The highest number of people right now affected by the virus are young people. And many of those are young Latinos. So we have to kind of do away with this notion that somehow the COVID-19 only affects older people. So we just have to keep that in mind.
I really thank you for reminding us of that. Juan?
David, we have one last question from Garcia.
Yes, me. Hi, I'm Miguel Garcia from Aldea, Dallas. Hi to everyone. This question is for whoever wants to respond. What about other workers, like all in the grocery stores? There are a lot of immigrants there, and what is happening with them?
Domingo, would you like to talk about that?
So today we put out a COVID-19 impact on Latinos and included healthcare, education, and the workers that are on the front lines. The truckers, many of the truckers in America, los troqueros son latinos, los que trabajan en las tiendas de lo que llamamos stockers, los que están poniendo la comida son latinos. Y sabemos que no tienen la protección muchas veces que es necesaria. So estamos pidiendo que OSHA dé las mismas protecciones que estamos hablando de los campesinos, de los empacadores, que también a los que están trabajando como troqueros y los que están trabajando en las tiendas, que merecen las mismas protecciones y el mismo tipo de enfuerzamiento de las leyes en esas compañías. Y eso es algo que estamos haciendo hoy y estamos tratando de tener una cita con el presidente de los Estados Unidos, Pence, para que hablamos con él acerca de la inclusión de estos trabajadores como trabajadores esenciales de este país y que están trabajando en las líneas de la frente, pues nuestra virus, poniendo la comida en las mesas de todos los ciudadanos americanos y los residentes de este país, Puerto Rico.
Gracias, señorita García. ¿Alguna pregunta adicional?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Is there anyone you have Fernando Mejía, and that'll be the last one.
Fernando Mejía, ¿con quién, por favor?
Sí, Fernando Mejía, que Telemundo Dallas. ¿Pudiera, por favor, la familiar de la persona víctima darnos, por favor, un statement en español? Y también me gustaría pedirle a Domingo y a Dolores que si me pudieran dar un resumen muy rápido en español de lo que dijeron. Si pudiéramos empezar con la familiar de la víctima.
Beatriz Rangel, usted tiene la palabra en español si gusta.
Ok, muy bien. una de las razones que estoy aquí es esta entrevista y todas las demás que ha hecho. Lo hago en honor de mi padre, de toda la gente que él quería ahí en JBS, todos los empleados que eran como su segunda familia para él. Y pienso que mucha gente nos pidió que fuéramos la voz de esa gente porque mucha gente tiene miedo a hablar. Y esto lo hago en honor de mi papá.
Gracias, señora Rangel. El señor presidente Garcia.
La razón que estamos aquí como LULAC es para ayudar, no solamente para que no haya otro Saúl Sánchez, para evitar y proteger cada José María que está trabajando y con su sudor y con su fuerza. Están poniendo como una de las mesas de América ahorita. Pero también está dando el respeto, las protecciones que se dan a todos los otros trabajadores que aquí en Estados Unidos. Por eso estamos pidiendo que el presidente de Estados Unidos les dé una protección temporal a todos los trabajadores del sector agricultor, empacadores y los troqueros y los que están trabajando en las tiendas, porque son una parte importante de nuestro país. Y segundo, que hacemos todo lo necesarias, el equipo necesario para que hagan su trabajo con salud, en una manera muy protegida.
So sorry, pero cualquier persona que se acaba de unir, por favor, cortemos el audio porque la declaración que acaba de dar el señor presidente, no sé si es algo que Telemundo en Dallas puede utilizar. Fernando, ¿vale o quieres que lo hagamos de nuevo? De nuevo. Domingo, disculpe, pero es que hubo una interrupción del audio. Con su permiso, y luego quiero que Dolores Huerta cierre.
Okay.
Kill your audio, please, guys.
Juan, can you mute everybody except me?
Yes, I'll do that now. I'm muting everyone for a moment.
Okay. Ready? Okay.
Ready.
La razón que estamos aquí es porque queremos evitar que lo que le pasó a Saúl Sánchez y su familia no le pase a ninguna otra familia en el futuro. Sabemos que los que están trabajando ahorita en el campo, en la agricultura, los campesinos, los que están trabajando como empacadores, los que están trabajando de troqueros o los que están trabajando en las tiendas, necesitan la protección y la dignidad que reciben todos los otros trabajadores de Estados Unidos. La mayoría son latinos. Estamos luchando y peleando para que el presidente de Estados Unidos le dé esas protecciones a todos estos trabajadores, incluyendo dándoles una protección temporal de inmigración y también las protecciones del equipo que necesitan para hacer su trabajo. Y estamos parando hoy diciendo que si no lo hacen, es muy posible que en 2 o 3 semanas la comida que estamos viendo ahorita en las tiendas, lo que es la carne, el pollo, el puerco, puede bajar a una crisis muy grande. Y necesitamos que evitar eso, dándole el apoyo y la ayuda a estos trabajadores hoy y no esperar hasta mañana.
Huerta, usted tiene la última palabra.
Gracias. Bueno, en California tenemos la misma situación, que los trabajadores del campo no están protegidos, no tienen las máscaras que deben de tener, pero sí tenemos, aquí tenemos el desempleo para los trabajadores del campo, también tenemos seguridad de incapacidad para los trabajadores que son ciudadanos y que son legales aquí en este país, pero para la gente que no tienen documentos, también el gobernador Newsom aquí ya ha anunciado que vamos a tener alguna clase de recursos para ellos en ese tiempo. Necesitamos también que en otras partes del país que también los trabajadores del campo tengan los programas de salud que tenemos aquí también en California. De una parte estamos, podemos decir, en mejores circunstancias que los demás, pero a la vez sabemos que todavía nos falta la protección para los trabajadores del campo. Y les pido a todos los medios que por favor, que cuando hablan de los trabajadores esenciales, los que tienen que tener, los que deben ser protegidos, por favor mencionen a los trabajadores del campo. Y también que mencionen que aquí donde yo estoy, en el sistema de agricultura, Kern County de California, la mayor parte de las personas que son víctimas ahorita de esta epidemia son los jóvenes, ¿ok? No deben de pensar que nomás la gente mayor son los que están afectados o que pueden morir, pero que también los jóvenes latinos también están afectados. y todos nos tenemos que cooperar para poder sobrevivir esta crisis, y sí se puede, con todos juntos trabajando y también con ustedes de las medias y las medias sociales. Gracias.
David, I wanted to see if anyone had any also last questions for Kim Cordova. She's on the phone and she represents thousands of grocery workers. Or if you had anything to say to add, Kim. I think she's on mute, Juan. Can you unmute her?
Sorry. I'm sorry, Marcella, I can't because she's actually on by phone. Oh, actually, here you go. I think she's unmuted now.
Okay. Hi. I just wanted to respond to the reporter's question about the grocery workers. So UFCW, we represent, I do in Colorado, over 17,000 grocery workers, but throughout the U.S. and Canada, we have over 1.9 million food processing and grocery workers. And the same type of inadequate responses, from these employers on COVID, that we had to deal with this since the onset, not providing PPE, not providing, paid leave for these workers that have been deemed critical and essential. I have explained to the governor and also any legislator or anybody that would listen to us that we've always known these workers were critical and essential workers, and they are responsible for the food supply chain and resources to the public and to our communities. But the problem with them being on the front line is they don't have special training. A first responder, a nurse or a police officer, they're, they go through special training. They know what situation they're going into. They know that there may be danger. And these frontline workers, while they're doing this incredible job on the front line, really responsible for our communities to continue to keep, to live, to sustain life. They haven't been given the proper PPE or paid compensation, hazard pay. Our grocery workers, the amount of COVID positives now are starting to increase, and grocery workers across the country have started to die also because of COVID. And these grocery stores have started to respond by trying to work about customer social distancing. And, sadly that this is all a little bit too late. But I wanted to get this out there, that they also need these type of protections that we've all been talking about on this call.
Thank you. It's only appropriate that as we wrap up today's conversation, that we go back and remember Saul, because he represents all the people who are providing the food for our tables. Y como dijo el presidente Garcia, it is not an exaggeration to say that shortly, within as little as 2 to 3 weeks, without individuals like Saul, our plates would be empty. Entonces les ruego un momento de silencio, a moment of silence for Saul Longoria Sanchez, que en paz descanse, and the 3 other people who have also died in Colorado. Saul Longoria Sánchez, Eduardo Conchas de la Cruz, Tiburcio Rivera Lopez, 3 people at JBS USA, que en paz descansen. There's also a 4th fatality who's not on this list, pero a todos y a sus familiares, el más sincero pésame del corazón. Beatriz, take back to his wife, your mama, y toda la familia, el respeto de LULAC, también de nuestra amada Dolores Huerta, and everyone who's been on this call. I want to thank all the members of the media who have joined us today. And Juan, that concludes my role here. Is there anything further from you, the producer, or Marcela with SKDK? Anything else you would like to add?
Nothing here. Thank you.
Marcela?
Nothing here. Just want to thank everybody for their time and for covering this very important this issue for our workers who, as Dolores mentioned, are invisible. But thanks to your hard work, we hope to keep their issues at the forefront.
Thank you so very much. Muy agradecidos que estamos. Que